Hi and welcome to my install video of an F18A video enhancer board for the ColecoVision video game system. Now the F18A is a board that will replace the video chip or the video display processor in your ColecoVision or your Coleco Atom, TI-994A computer, MSX computer, SG-1000, or any similar device that uses that particular video chip. And basically the F18A gives you some new modes depending on the system you have. In the ColecoVision, one of the main things it gives you is direct VGA out, so very sharp, crisp graphics. Other modes will allow you to have, say, 80-column video display versus a 40-column display. The original ColecoVision can display 4 sprites on a single scan line and would flicker on occasion. With this, you will now have up to 32 sprites with no flicker. And there's other modes as well. I'll have a link below where you can purchase and find out more information on this really nice video board. But right now we're going to discuss how we are going to install it in a ColecoVision. Now, I always keep one system pristine. I don't like modifying my originals. So I purchased 2 ColecoVision systems off of eBay listed as non-working. One of the 2 main things that go on a ColecoVision, the number one is the power switch here. And what happens is the power switch is mechanical. They use a dielectric grease. It can dry up or just get very dirty. And what happens, the switch here is actually switching 2 power rails. It's a double pole switch. When you throw this to on, you are turning on positive 5 volts and positive 12 volts. If the ColecoVision does not get that cleanly or the proper voltage, you'll have glitches in your display. And a lot of people think that the ColecoVision is broken when simply replacing or even cleaning. A lot of people say they can clean it, and I've done that in the past. But the switch itself is a little more prone to failure because of the way it's designed. In this video, I will actually be replacing this with a aftermarket switch. Again, that's just to make sure clean power is coming through to your ColecoVision. But since you're opening it, at the very least, you should clean off the old dielectric grease and clean that up. The other point of failure, and it's quite common, is the 16K video RAM. The ColecoVision is loosely based on the TI-994A's architecture, and the video chip uses a dedicated VRAM, and this has 16K like the TI-994A computer did. So when you install an F18A, it actually has its own onboard RAM. So if you have any fault in any one of the video chips, it will not matter because it's no longer being used. Another plus, if you will, the TI-994A and the ColecoVision and the Atom as well use actually 3 voltages, positive 5 volts and positive 12 volts, which is turned on by this switch. But the video RAM also uses a negative 5 volts. Negative 5 volts is always supplied as long as the power pack is plugged in. And the F18A does not require that. So I've tested it myself, and you can actually use an ATX power supply once the F18 is installed, because you only need positive 5 and positive 12, which any ATX power supply can supply. And so you don't need to use the original power brick anymore if you didn't want to. But we'll talk about some items like that in a different video. So here's one of the ColecoVisions I had gotten off of eBay. And basically the first thing you do is open it. Now, the ColecoVision had this front bezel here, and it's not an issue, but you don't want to damage this strip that's on here. There's actually a screw here, a screw here, and a screw here that would have to be unscrewed to pull this off easily. But I'm going to show you where to open your ColecoVision without having to do that and ruin your label. Now, I've also tested this as well. You can use a hairdryer to heat this up and pull this off cleanly. You can definitely do that. But if your label's in really good shape, there's no really need to even do that. So when you turn your ColecoVision over, there are 6 screws right here that all need to be removed. Just take out these 6 screws. Once that's done, simply go to the back of the ColecoVision where the power jack is, lift it up, so you're going to separate it this way. And what you're going to do next is the top cover here is where the front bezel is attached. So what you're going to do is lift this up, and this is going to get pulled back. The bottom half you're going to pull back toward yourself as you lift. So you can see here, if you slide this back and pull it out, so in this direction, you can lift this up and separate the front bezel here, and just run your hand all the way down. And you can see it will separate fairly easy. It may take a little practice to get it, but you shouldn't break anything. It should separate, and once that is all separated, you can see the 2 top halves come off. No damage was done to your label. In this case, the label was already bad shape, but no additional damage was done to it. And now you can see you're exposing your main circuit board and the bottom half of the ColecoVision. Now, this RF shield here only has 2 screws holding it down in these 2 locations, but there is some solder here that they use to weld it down to the grounding plate. So you need one of 3 things. Either you need to desolder this with a solder wick, a solder sucker, or just heat this up enough to where you can separate it. If you do it that way, just be careful, it's going to get hot. But you do need to break this solder to get this RF shield off. Here's just another picture of screw 1, screw 2, and the solder has to be broken or desoldered in this spot here to get this shield off. But once you do that, it lifts right out. Now the front here is for your expansion modules. It's got this little copper connector. These 2 slots will slide into here, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to go back together. So just slide this and put it aside for now. Now here's your main board of your ColecoVision. Obviously your expansion connector, reset button, power switch. We'll get into more about this a little bit later. Definitely should be cleaned if you have your machine open. Don't open it and at least not clean it, if not replace it. Main CPU, cartridge connector, player 2, player 1, player 2 chip, player 1 chip. If you're having a problem with your controller, acting weird, buttons being pressed, controller's not working, if you know you have working controllers, one of these 2 chips can be bad. Console 5 actually sells replacement chips on the link below with a socket, so you can easily replace them in the future. Here's your main BIOS. This also can be replaced with a non-delay BIOS. You can also get that from Console 5. They'll sell you a socket and instructions how to fix this all up here to run that BIOS. Here's your onboard 16K of RAM. Once the modification is done, this is no longer used, as well as the -5 volts. So you only need +12 and +5 volts. Here's your RF out connector, and here is the video display processor. This is what we're going to be concentrating on and removing. Here's just a closer shot. You can see all the little spots we're going to have to desolder here. 16K of RAM over here, and the BIOS. Now this is what I use primarily. It's a soldering iron with a built-in solder sucker ball. There's a small hole here. You heat up the solder and suck it right out. It works fairly well, but these systems are 30 plus years old. Even when you use something like this, a solder wick, flux, sometimes the solder does not want to come up cleanly. You really got to take your time. You don't want to pull traces. We'll get into that a little bit as well. But just take your time in doing this. It's not going to be something you can have done in 5 minutes. This is another, this is called a rework station. It's basically a fancy hot air gun. You can set your temperature here, be very careful, as well as the fan blower. I would recommend if you're using something like this, practice on a dead motherboard, an old IBM motherboard, because you can scorch your board fairly easy if your temperature's right, or too high I should say, and you're doing it on the spot too long. And again, we'll get into that in a little bit as well. Here's the bottom of the ColecoVision board, 16K RAM, and these are what we need to concentrate on. These guys here have to be completely desoldered and cleaned. So you can see I've already started using my solder sucker, and I've begun removing solder from here. I have to work on this area here as well. It doesn't go super quick, especially, again, the solder is very old, and it's really down to these pins. These will sometimes stick. Just take your time when doing this. So here's the first board, ColecoVision I got. See, it cleaned up pretty well. I did have to use my rework station, and the temperature was a little high for this old board. You can see some scorch marks on here. Not too bad. Nothing was damaged, but you can see there was a little too much heat used in these particular spots. But you can see all of the traces are good. Nothing got pulled, and they're all fairly clean. Now here's my second board. It didn't go as well. This was actually the better of the 2 boards. I was a little surprised. This trace had actually got pulled up. Solder didn't want to come out of here. This one also, solder and the whole trace pulled up. Now I repaired this trace, but you know what? It's not even needed. On this side, these 2 pins here, and I believe these here are used. The rest of these not even connected. So I repaired that for no reason. This one here also pulled up, and this one is needed. So I checked the continuity. I'm good here, but you have to be very careful. You can see a lot of these traces on this particular board did not do as well as the other one. I took my time, but the solder just was not releasing, and so these pulled up. I repaired them, so it's not too bad. But again, you can see that even if you take your time and do it right, you still risk damaging these traces. So this is something if you're really not comfortable with, maybe have someone professionally do it for you. Unfortunately, I am a risk taker and I do it myself. And here you can see again the underside of the secondary board, and from this side these traces came out pretty much okay. So I just had to do a couple smaller repairs, and this was good to go. Now, I had these are called risers. So I had these already, I put them in. You probably should get a regular socket. To make sure they're connected and make sure these are the proper distance apart. I'm pretty good at this, and the distance is in fact fine for the F18A or any chip I put in here, even the original video display processor. But I had these lying around, didn't cost me anything, so I put them in. But again, I would recommend, if you can, get a standard socket. It would just be easier for you. And again, these trays here has not been used, but I did test continuity, and everything here was good. So you can see the F18A is now installed. Simply slide into the socket. Now the F18A, when you order it, comes in a couple of flavors. When you buy for the ColecoVision, it comes with basically these risers on it already, and that's needed to get over these memory chips and little caps that are here. So just make sure when you order it, you do select the one for the actual ColecoVision. The TI-9948 does not require it. The Atom does, and the Atom also requires another board to push this out of the way. But again, it's right on his website, which you can basically pick fairly easy. You can see I have a cartridge in here, and I am supplying power with a little red indicator light, meaning it's got a good 5 volts going to it. Now I tapped audio off the C88, which is right behind the video display chip next to the RF box. The audio is coming out of here, which is my red lead, and then I simply scraped a little spot here on the motherboard and soldered down the grounding right to the grounding plane of the ColecoVision main board. You can see it a little bit better here. RF box, F18A, video RAM, and C88 on grabbing the audio. Now some people have removed the guts from here and used the old RF out as the audio out. I did not do that. I want to make it so if I ever wanted to, I can pull this out, put the original chip back in, and have my original ColecoVision running as it did from the factory. I like to be, if I modify something, being able to unmodify fairly easily. As you can see, it's powered up and a perfect picture. You're not going to get anything better than that. You can, if you want, take the VGA out and go into an HDMI converter. Some people have done that internally, some people have done it externally. I'm fine with just VGA. You can see it's got a really good, sharp, clean picture on it. Now, the F18A VGA connector comes with this backplane. I used this also for my TI when I did the conversion to make the hole. This was no different. I used as a template. I simply marked in here with a marker where I was going to cut out. A lot of people simply did this right behind where the F18 is installed on the motherboard side. I wanted it on this side, just to do things a little bit differently, and I thought it would look nicer. So use a drill to drill out some holes. Then just use a file to clean it up. So you don't have to be too accurate with the drill. Just when you file, make sure you do a nice, clean job of filing, and you get a nice hole like this. Now, since I made my hole this way, a lot of people will simply cut out right here and just put the VGA connector into it, and then there's no problem with the cabling. Since I did it this way, I needed to remove my connector here. And again, it's just the way I wanted to install it. So I had to remove the back plastic connector on here. So be very careful you don't damage that. Then use a small screwdriver, just pry up the cable. Again, you have to be very careful, you don't want to damage the cable or these pins that bite into it. But once I did that, I was able to slide the connector right through and mount the connector. Next, I drilled 2 small holes here to run in these small little screws to hold it in place, as you can see here. Again, some people will take the F18A VGA out, put it on this side. This way it's right next to the motherboard, but I decided to put it over here. Then my audio out jack right here next to it. Just drill a small hole, put it in. This bugs me a little bit. That drill, when it went through, bit into the plastic, but hey, you can never get things perfect. So this is the back of the connector that will hold this in place. Now, since I installed it where I did, if you put it here, back here, there's more room. But since I put it where I'm putting it, the joystick connector holder sits down here. So I had to basically cut this off. You'll see it more better in a minute, but I did basically cut this part of the plastic off, leaving just the connector with the screws. That'll help me mount the plate. So you can see a little bit better here what's happening. These screws go into this to hold this all solid in place. Or if I left the connector the way it was, it would have come out to here, and the joysticks are right here, so it wouldn't have worked. This is pretty much all the space you have to work with here. So I just trimmed that off, and this will now sit better down. and simply put the connector back on with the cable, and that's it for that initial part of the video. The next part here is the power switch. Now again, since it's open, it's very smart to at least clean this. I ended up replacing it just because this particular computer I wanted to do all the mods. I want to do VGA out, new power switch, LED, and eventually a pause mod. But I'll show you real quick, if you want to clean it, what's involved. So this switch here is again mechanical. This is a big solder blob down here on the bottom of the motherboard. You have to clean out all the solder here and on this end. Once that's done, this should be freed, but you can see here there's little clips. You need to bend these two clips out here slightly and on this side. Once you remove all the solder down here, pop this off, remove solder this side, pop that off, bend these little guys out, you can see it'll come right off. You can see all this dielectric grease in here. It's so much. And this switch was definitely flaky. So you basically use rubbing alcohol, some Q-tips, and really get all this gunk off. You can put some on lightly, but this is like overkill. It's way too much. This all has to be cleaned out inside the switch, and these are the two devices that make the contact. So on this switch here, these two don't do a thing. They're nothing. This is your hot 12, hot 5 volts, and you throw your switch, and then that supplies the motherboard 5 volts and 12 volts. So all this has to be cleaned off really well. You can see, shine them all up, clean out all that gunk. Once that's done, you can put this back here, this back here, lay down the switch in here, and put it back together in the exact reverse order. So you can put it back on, bend these 4 guys in, and resolder these 2 down. I opted not to do that. I opted basically to just remove the switch entirely, as you can see here. Again, the lower part is not used at all. This is your hot 5 volt positive, hot 12 volt positive, and then once you throw the switch, this will power up your ColecoVision with 12 volts and 5 volts. So what I ended up doing was I went to an old ATX motherboard, and I pulled this connector off. This is going to be a way so I can still connect and reconnect the top of the case of the ColecoVision. A lot of times when people do the power switch mod, it's hardwired, and the switch is always hard connected to the bottom half of the case. I didn't want to do that. I want to be able to remove it entirely if I wanted to. So I basically removed this switch here, and I cut off the sister part off an ATX power supply. So you can see I ran the 12 volt lines to that connector, which was this connector, and my 5 volts. Then I took the sister part off a ATX power supply, and cut that off, and that's running to my new power switch. So if I want to, I can connect this and pull it off and still completely separate my motherboard from the top of the ColecoVision case. So here's your top of the ColecoVision case. Now I drilled a hole here, which you see in a moment, for my LED, which I basically ran from this area here. I grounded it here with the black wire, and my hot went to this one here, and you'll see a better picture of that in a minute. But I cut a small hole here. You can see my LED will go in here. The only other thing you need to do on the switch itself, and by the way, you can see how the top ColecoVision label gets screwed in to the front if you needed to see that. But basically, put the new power switch in. I need to shave this off here and this off here so I can put the screw nut down. So it comes off fairly easy. Take your time, cut it cleanly. You can see my LED plugged in here. LED shot again. And for the LED, I had these 2 old fans, and I cut this wire off of here. So this will supply my LED with power, and also leave my quick connector for my audio out, again, so I can completely disconnect the motherboard if I wanted to. So what I also did was, on the 2 wires that came in from my LED, I just put some solder on it to harden it, and they slide right into the connector easily. You can pull them out, put them back in, no problem. So here's a quick lowdown of the motherboard installed in the bottom half of the case. Again, my power lead jack, removable with this connector. You can see my black lead. I went to the grounding plate here for my black for the LED light, and my hot went to the upper wire here, which only gets powered when the switch is thrown on. You can see again the original power wire, and here is my audio out, which you can see comes into the same jack as here. Add another fan. Again, just put a little solder on the end to make them hard. Easy to slide it in and out of the jack, and that comes over to C88, the F18A, and I basically, what some people do, again, they'll fold the wire down and put the jack right here. I decided to go over here, so I come down, flip the wire, a piece of tape just to keep it out of the way of the cartridge, I'm sorry, the joystick tray when it goes in, and right out. Here's just another angle. Again, you can see the F18A holding the wire here down and out. Everything is out of the way. Nothing's past the power jack connector here, so nothing will be hit. And some people, again, have used this for the audio out. I opted to go this style here. And you can see I'm pulling audio from here. The cable comes around and out. And again, you can see on the this is the LED. I just put a little tinning of solder on here, and they'll just slide right into this this jack here, no problem. It's solid. It's not loose at all. Again, just for a test run. I have some heat shrink tubing. Once I tested everything that I put on here, just to make sure nothing shorts out. But my power lead comes up to this jack. This jack then goes up to my switch. Power LED goes down to here, and there's another angle so you can see everything getting ready to be closed up for its first test. The motherboard, all my connectors. They said there's plenty of room in here for these wires. It doesn't have to be this long, but there's a ton of room in here. Here's everything closed up. My LED, power switch, everything looks stock. It's fine. Well, not the power switch, the light obviously. Here it is turned on. I got my LED working, and you can see the VGA coming out here, and the audio. And again, this power jack is still being used, not necessary. I can just get any positive 12, positive 5 volt now to supply the ColecoVision. It doesn't have to be this big power brick anymore. And that's it. The Space Panic game was actually dirty when I ran the test, so I had to clean it. But you can see it's got a really good sharp picture on here. And that's it, everyone. There's not much more to say about it. The unit itself is about $78. It's not super expensive, it's not cheap. But the quality of the video you're going to get out of it is amazing. You can use modern displays. You can take it to HDMI out. And in my opinion, it's totally worth it. As far as how it is to install, that really depends on how good you are with the soldering iron. These old machines are very delicate. As you can see in my video, I had 2 boards. One did pull up traces. I was able to repair them. But you have to have a little knowledge to do this. Now, there's a guy, I'll put a link down below, who does these modifications very reasonably. And he does other modifications as well, like a pause mod. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't go too fast on it. And if you did like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Please leave any comments down below. And if you have any requests for other videos, please do. I do try to read all the video comments and comments you guys post. And I really appreciate the community, both on Facebook, Atari Age, and all the forums that I'm on. Everyone, I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching.